Alright, so I'm making this video to talk about how to prepare for the economic collapse that's coming in the United States. Now, this all kind of depends on how bad you think it's going to be. So I'm going to give you the basics of what you'll definitely want to do, and then give you some scenarios of what you can do if you think it's going to get really bad. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have a 3-month supply minimum of food that you can eat. Preferably a year. People say anywhere you look, you at least want 3 months. So if you and your family could not get food for 3 months, you want to have 3 months of food saved up, in a pantry in your basement somewhere. And that could be things like, canned food. You can get dry food from websites, which will last like 25, 30 years. But if you get, like tuna lasts like 4 or 5 years. You get canned food that lasts a few years. And, food that you can eat that, you don't have to rely on if the stores went dry and you wouldn't have to, and you wouldn't be able to go to the stores. You want at least minimum 3 months supply of food. I'm saying a year. I'm preparing for a year, and that's what I recommend you do. And I would recommend that being food that you can get at the store, as well as dry products, as well as products you can get off websites, like dry food that lasts, that'll last, like I said, 25, 30 years. Something else you want to have is you want to have backup water, and you want to have a water purifier. You want to have the backup water in case you can't get water for a certain amount of time. 2 to 4 weeks would be a good estimate of the amount of water. And then a water purifier. You want the water purifier in case you don't have any water and you need to go to like a pond or a lake and get some water out and pour it in the water purifier. Or if the bottled water you buy eventually goes bad, and then you can always run it through the water purifier and then be able to drink that water. And then you also want the water purifier because, the average person can only survive 3 days without water. You can survive about 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water. So you definitely want to have backup water and something to pure water. So that's something that I'm getting too. You can find good ones off the internet that, for $250, $300, you can find a water purifier where you can take water from a lake, if it gets to that point, pour it in this water purifier. They'll get you like 18,000 gallons of clean water to drink. So that's the first thing is food, or I guess the first thing really is water. Second thing is food. You also want to have guns and ammunition to protect yourselves. I was watching this video of this guy in Argentina when the economy collapsed and people started breaking into places and robbing people, and you definitely want to have gun. It's recommended you have at least 1 gun with 500 bullets, but I'd prefer to be safe. I'd prefer to have 2 guns with at least 1,000 bullets. And you want to have gold and silver, because gold and silver always maintain its value. Gold and silver is always valuable. Paper, pieces of paper, that's just pieces of paper. When hyperinflation happens, which it will happen, then that paper becomes useless. So you want to have gold and silver, so you could trade things. So that's the basics of what you want, and that's what I'm preparing for as well. And that's always a good idea because, we kind of rely on, even if you don't think the economy, you're not sure if the economy is going to collapse or not, or hyperinflation is going to happen, and, you don't know how bad it's going to get. But even if you don't think any of that's going to happen, you always want to have backup food because, let's say, something happens. You have to eat. You have to have water. It's always a good idea to always have backup food. Let's think about it for a sec. As you're looking at me, and you're listening to what I'm saying, and you're hearing my words, there's a good chance you have life insurance. There's a good chance you have home insurance. There's a good chance you have health insurance. You might as well have survival insurance. You can go out and you can get some, you could probably get all this, for the first round, maybe for $1,000 or $2,000. And once you have the guns and the ammunition and the water purifier, then, every few years you just rotate the food. And let's say you don't eat the food or the water, so what? You throw away $1,000 worth of food. That's, if you throw away $1,000 worth of food and water every 3-4 years, that's probably cheaper than the life insurance or the insurance you have on your car or the house insurance. So this is just a good idea to have. Now, some people think that it's going to get a lot worse and that it's going to become a lot worse than the Great Depression. So if you're preparing for something like that, then you want to take more measures. And something to consider would be possibly having a backup home or moving somewhere a little bit rural. And this is, again, just, as you do research, it's, it just depends how bad it's going to get. We know that when it goes through hyperinflation, it's going to get bad. And it's going to get ugly. And, with people needing food and needing water and not being able to get access to it, we're not sure how bad it's going to get. You'll read some places, and they'll say, it's going to get ugly for the first few weeks, the first couple months is always when it's the ugliest. Now, if, people step in or the government steps in, which you shouldn't rely on them, but if the government steps in kind of starts to supply some food or water, then it won't be that bad. So some people say, all right, it's just going to get bad. You just need that basic stuff, which is what I just listed. You just need that basic stuff, and after there's some chaos, then there'll be a new currency, which there will be. There'll be a new currency that will come in, and that will be the new currency that we use. Whenever hyperinflation happens, and it's already happened in the U.S. It happened in the Revolutionary War with the Continental. That's where the expression "now worth the Continental" came from. After that, there was a new currency that was introduced. After we go through hyperinflation and Federal Reserve notes become worthless, then, the Amero or whatever will be introduced, and that'll be the new currency that we start using. So if you think it just, so typically, we're not going to have so typically these, this one article I was reading was saying the whole society is not going to break down, but it'll be a little bit of an anarchy state for a little bit as people are freaking out and, going to stores and possibly breaking into other people's homes to take food. So you want that basic stuff. Now, some people think it's going to get worse. If you think it's going to be worse, then this is what is recommended to do. If you can, it's recommended to get a home that is within 100. You want to get a home kind of in the country, and you want to be self-sufficient. So this is a good map to go off of. I printed this out. You can find this on the internet, and if you look at all those red dots, that's where there's a lot of population. And if you look at each of the red dots, there's a circle around the red dots. Okay, and just go see where you live. And if you see the circle around the red dots, that's where people could travel to if it got to that level of anarchy. And of course, I'm obviously not giving you advice. I'm just saying, the different points of view, and then you need to think, all right, what do you think is going to happen, and prepare accordingly. But go back and look at that map that I showed you. And what that is that's a dot and then a 150-mile radius around that dot. And what that is that's the basic distance. That's the furthest that the average person would be able to travel if they were leaving the state because it got that bad. And I know that's very extreme, but just follow me with here because that's what this video is for. So this one website was saying that the best place to move would be somewhere up here because you see there's nobody that's really up here. You see up here in the upper north of America, nobody's really up here. Now what you can do is you can find where you live, and you could, and if you have the time and you have the money and you think it's going to happen, then you can figure out where would be a good place for you to live, for you to maybe have a backup home. So let's say you live, here, let me turn this piece of it. Alright, let's say you live right here, then 150 miles is around here, and that's the furthest anybody would really be able to travel to or get to. So if you're really worried about it, you can move somewhere up here. Like, this is all very good, this is good. And if you look at this map, and you can go back in the video and pause it and scan in, you can see that, okay, maybe you live here. So if you live here, then, having a home kind of right here where it'd be about 150 miles from anybody, which is kind of rural, and you could kind of be self-sufficient, that'd be a place you could move to or travel to if it got that bad, and maybe you needed to stay there for a few months or a year or something like that. Whatever you think is going to happen, that's more in the extreme. And I'm not telling you, I don't know what's going to happen, but some people are saying it's going to just get kind of bad, and some people are saying it's going to be really bad, and you're going to want to have a home. And some people that have money have homes that are like in Utah that are all the way out there to where nobody's there, and they're self-sufficient, and they can completely, they have a farm, and they have an underground bunker in case something happens from, if they need to get under there. So, but, it all kind of depends on where you are and your finances, Some people don't have the luxury of being able to go buy build a home and a ranch and be able to buy that to prepare for something like that. But you definitely want to get the backup food, the backup water, guns, because you want to be able to protect yourself, and gold and silver. All about gold and silver. I buy gold and silver all the time. Definitely want to have gold and silver. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you guys found this video informative, and I love comments, so please leave your comment underneath this video, and I will see you guys at my next video.